And the conspiracy theories, under deaths and disappearances, the first one is the death of Nero. It's apparently there was widespread conspiracy theories in ancient times about his death.
Yeah, I mean, there was a guy who claimed to be Nero. Like some peasant who was like, yeah, I'm actually Nero. I didn't die that one time. Now let's have a rebellion. And it failed, obviously. But like plenty of people thought Nero didn't die.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, no, Nero's very popular and like the laymen. Because like, I don't know, he was an artist. He was like an interesting guy. It's just that like he wasn't good at running a state. So everyone with the swords didn't like him, but everyone who weren't allowed to have swords liked him. All right. So yeah, I mean, I think we're ready to start when you are.
I'm good to go.
All right. Well, welcome to the We Weren't There podcast, hosted by me, Ben, and
me, Max.
me, Max. Me name Ben. You name? You
Max.
name?
Oh, me name Max.
Good,
yes,
good.
exactly.
All right, still figuring this stuff out, but this week we have less of a lecture, I think.
It's more of a I don't want to say fun, but it's more of a loosely structured topic. It's more of a discussion than anything.
I mean, we're still figuring this out on the go, but our plan for now is to have 1 week is like a prepared subject, which prepared by Max last time was about one Gracchus brother, Tiberius.
Yeah.
Yes, it was about Tiberius Gracchus. And then, what are we doing today?
We're doing pseudo-archaeology / history conspiracy theories, just like people lying about history, basically.
Well, well, they have evidence, don't they?
Well, we'll get to that.
What do you mean they're lying? They believe in, if they believe in what they say, is it really a lie?
Yes.
I see. Well, we'll explore those then. And yeah, next week I'll come with a prepared topic, which will not be about antiquity, but you'll find out when we're there.
So yeah, I spent a little bit of time trying to find the most wild or outlandish conspiracy theories I could find to like present to you today. So the first one. So what if I told you, Ben? What if I told you that Charlemagne didn't actually exist? That he wasn't, and that he wasn't real.
I lived in a neighborhood called Charlemagne. You're telling me that that's built on a lie?
What if I told you that was a conspiracy between the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, and in some of the sources I found, potentially also Constantine the Seventh. Yeah, Constantine the Seventh.
Constantine, as in
Emperor of Byzantium.
Okay, Emperor.
Constantine the Seventh.
Okay.
So you might be asking, how is he not real? Well, in fact,
I can kind of. I think I know the idea behind this. Actually, I think like please to tell me what it is so I can confirm whether it's true or not. But I could see how that can form. It's
the phantom time hypothesis, which
that's not something I was expecting.
Was written in 1991, and basically it suggests that there's a period of 297 years, so from 614 AD to 911 AD, so the entire Carolingian period. It's basically like Charlemagne and his children.
But
were not real.
What? So it just went from Merovingian to Valois?
Yeah, it was fabricated.
Not Valois. I forget the name of all the Louis.
This conspiracy between those three people I mentioned before was to fabricate the Anno Domini, so like the AD and BC system, retroactively in order to place them all at the special year of 1000 AD in order to legitimize Otto III's claim to the Holy Roman Empire during his coronation. And allegedly they did this by alternating and forging documents and misrepresenting the past to the average layman.
So like three people just did this, and everyone just went along with it.
Well, he's the Pope, Well, I'll get to the evidence.
Oh, right, evidence. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
So, according to the proponents, there's a scarcity of archaeological evidence that can be reliably dated to the period of 614 to 911, right?
Okay.
That the dating methods used for such recent periods, so carbon dating and stuff, are inaccurate. So they're just like claiming that the science
so
isn't
it's
real.
like there are very little evidence, but the evidence that is there isn't real.
Yes, and that medieval historians, quote, rely too much on written sources.
I mean, that's a valid criticism, but like in any other context.
There's also, they say there's a present of Romanesque, as in like similar to the Roman Empire,
right?
Architecture in 10th century Western Europe, which suggests that the Roman era was not as long ago as conventionally thought. Even, no one could have built like architecture in the same style.
Architectural influence? That's not a thing.
Oh yes, and the oof, yeah, and then there's a lot of refutations, as you might imagine. So
yeah, is it just like a long list of like
oh
point
yeah,
A, point B, point C,
but
point
my
D?
personal favorite and the thing that debunks the whole thing is the existence of other calendars aside from the Christian calendar, and ancient China.
I mean, I'm thinking ancient China, but also especially if we want to have like matching, like let's say events and stuff like. I'm just thinking, what about the Arab calendar?
Oh yeah, no, they get, like one of
Like
the
the Muslim calendar, not the Arab.
not just
calendar,
that one.
The Muslim
This is
calendar.
this is the period where Muhammad is born and when Islam is founded.
I mean, yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm like, can't we like match stuff up like next to each other and like, oh, these events that are written about around like the same time.
But maybe he was in on it too. Maybe it was a global cabal of Pope Sylvester II,
Oh my gosh.
the Caliphate, and then like ancient China in order
'Cause
to.
famously, the Catholic Church, the Byzantine Church, and the entire Muslim religion get along swell around this period, don't they? Especially, what can you repeat? What was the time period again?
614 to 911 AD.
Okay, so like this is way before the Crusades as well. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of stuff that
297 years
happened.
to be specific.
Yeah.
was just not even like was like something different happened. They allege that just doesn't exist. We're in like where we would be
So,
in the
like,
year like
the conquering of
1700s.
Spain. Isn't that like in that period that like the
But they would say it happened before or after. They'd be like, "Oh, it happened
yeah,
earlier."
but like if you're gonna present such a theory, you kind of have to establish it's like it's not like flip a coin. It could be either. It's not Schrodinger's Moorish Spain.
Schrodinger's Moorish Spain.
It's like it's a thing that happened that would like in the timeline like the end of the Visigothic kingdom in Spain happens.
Oh, they
and-
mentioned this. This is one of the specific things they mentioned because it says if Charlemagne and the
yeah,
his
because they also
dynasty
went into conflict with Charlemagne. That's a big
were fabricated,
deal.
there would have to be a corresponding fabrication of history of the rest of Europe. Anglo-Saxon England, the papacy, Byzantium.
right.
Also, life of Muhammad and Islamic expansionism, all the former Western Roman empires of Visigothic Iberia, and
Yeah.
the Tang dynasty had battles with Muslims, which is well documented. So like
right.
there is like it would have to be like this global conspiracy, and it's just all this is just to make Otto the was it Otto the Third?
Out of the first.
Otto the Third, yeah.
Oh, out of the third. Okay.
All this to make Otto the Third's claim to the throne more legitimate, because it's on the 1,000th
Okay,
year.
so it's the third. Because for me, I don't know. For me, if you were just to say like, I don't know. For me, the idea that Charlemagne himself isn't real is like way more credible, right? I don't know, and like because he is like so important in terms of like,
Mhm.
oh, the legacy of this. Oh, like especially because he was like the Holy Roman Emperor, and then there's like not really Holy Roman Emperors for a while until Otto the First, I think. So thinking like, oh, the Pope and Otto the First made up Charlemagne so that they could be like, oh, well, Western Europe, Rome, I know
Yeah,
Byzantium exists,
right.
but there's a legacy here, whatever. But to say that nearly like 200 years,
but like
around 200 years of
doesn't
history
exist.
didn't happen, or like didn't happen because it did happen, but not in 200 years.
like,
That's
well-
the proposal.
Well, the proposal is that these 200 years are fabricated, and like they used like the proponents of this theory will sometimes argue that it all happened before or it didn't happen.
Let me just say, adjust glasses. That's a very Eurocentric worldview.
It is
Because it really is like to say like, oh, those years happened, and it's like, well, what about the corresponding years in the Chinese calendar, in the Muslim calendar, in multiple other calendars in the world, which may or may not have corresponding, especially like climatic events, because that's one thing I know is when like looking at like climatic events in history, especially like volcano eruptions and kind of very disruptive events like that from nature, is that there's a bunch of disconnected sources that talk about it, and that's how we kind of like place around the time that it happened. So to just scrap all those years and just be like, oh, well, actually, all that stuff just poof, doesn't make any sense anymore.
Well, you talk about that, but one of the big refutations of this is just that the astronomical events, like stuff that happens cyclically,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
wouldn't make any sense if you got rid of these years.
right. I mean, in a mathematical sense.
Yeah, it's one of those really unbelievable. It's one of the.
It's one of those things where if you like, it's definitely one of those theories that wasn't made by someone who understands, not like, oh, doesn't understand history, because someone can understand what happened in history and still come up with that idea. It's someone who doesn't understand how history works.
I mean, also
like the process of history.
Also note that the claims in its favor are basically just that the science is wrong, like that the dating methods don't actually work, or there's a lack of evidence, which isn't true, by the way. There's a lot of archeological evidence.
Yeah,
from that
but
time.
all that evidence is fake. Don't
It's the
you know?
Pope. He planted it.
Yeah, the Pope.
Otto, and I don't understand what the Byzantine emperor stood to gain from this.
Yeah, that's also the question, right? It's because the only way it works is that also it's like the whole thing with like the moon landing, how like the Soviets actually confirmed receiving radio signals from the moon from the moon landing, which is like often used as like evidence to be like, well, why? What would the Soviets
Stand to gain,
from that? Well, it's like, well, obviously it's a global conspiracy. Then everybody is in on it.
I think that we have to.
Because
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. Because like the reason why I think Byzantium is it's a very Eurocentric worldview. Because I don't know if they mentioned. I mean, you said if
they don't.
Muslims are in on it.
Well, I was joking, but no one ever mentions that. So I said like the only way this works is
but
if
like
they were
there is
in on
also
it.
a European kind of opponent to the Catholic Christian.
Yeah, the Orthodox
worldview, which is
Church.
the Orthodox Church.
Yeah.
So the only way to make it work with their calendars, because they still use very similar calendars. I think I don't think they used Gregorian's the 1500s, so that's way later anyway. They both use the same calendar actually. So the only way that makes sense that like, oh yeah, also the Byzantine calendar also would have done that exact same thing is to be like, well, he was in on it too.
But why? We'll never know. We can't ask him.
We'll
Lost
never
to
know.
history. It's lost to history.
It is lost to history. It's part of that evidence that's barely existing.
And
it happened in like.
They also use tree ring dating to refute this, which I find fairly entertaining if you go into Europe, because you can tell how old a tree is by looking at the rings, right?
If there's one thing that Europe has, it's trees.
That is true. Yeah.
At least in the center, which is where the whole thing,
the Holy Roman
started. Yeah, that is, yeah, that it's just like, what was there was a definition. I forget who said it. Where it's like a definition of pseudoscience compared to actual science. And I saw this from like a video of some guy explaining a philosophy book, like a philosophy of science book. So I'm sorry I can't say who it is. I can put it in like the description later. And he was basically saying like the definition of pseudoscience, his proposal for that, because there isn't really like a universally agreed upon one, was like, well, science is a fact that is like it's like the process of coming up with facts that can be like negated, which like you could, I mean, that are falsifiable. It's facts that are falsifiable. Someone else, like, you can prove it, which is good, but you could also, like, if you thought about it, if you could do a test that would have a result which would say this isn't true, that is science. Even if that doesn't happen, because if it's true, it's true. That's part of the scientific process. But that's how you know that something is scientific, is if you could come up with something which would disprove it, right? Like, let's say Big Bang Theory. Like, if you come up with if you could, I'm not a mathematician, astrophysicist, but if you could come up with a way to prove that, actually the universe isn't expanding at this rate constantly, then like, that kind of falsifies the Big Bang Theory. Then we have to come up with another process. Then that's why that is a scientific theory and not, the Big Bang happened because it just happened. Whatever. Like, that's what makes
Charlemagne isn't real because he isn't real.
Yeah, that's what makes it a scientific theory as opposed to a religion. Because when you think about it, Big Bang Theory is such a metaphysical idea that like it could be a religion. So like, that's one thing where the idea that this period of time, going back to the, what differentiates that from pseudoscience is an idea that sounds like it's falsifiable, but it actually isn't. And like the claim that this, like, almost 200 years of history.
It's more than that. It's 297. It's almost 300 years.
Almost 300 years. My bad. I'm sorry. I underestimated the theory. If almost 300 years of history could just be erased, well, that sounds like an idea that could be falsified, right? So it sounds like science. It sounds like archaeology. But if you just say, well, that evidence isn't, like, that actually isn't reliable, and like, actually there isn't much. Actually, like, then all of a sudden it's not falsifiable because you've come up with claims that can falsify it, but you're rejecting every single one. Then it's not science anymore. But then again, that's when we argue, like, is it actually true? Is it not? What means falsifiable? There's still argumentation there.
Is history a science? Is it literature?
Well, I think archaeology is a science.
Archaeology is...
To a certain point, archaeology can be a science.
Well, I think everything except for maybe the more... what do they call it? Like the more theoretical interpretation.
Yeah. Well, like when you start thinking about like what's the intention of this person 300 years
ago,
or
like how
becomes,
less so than like
difficult. Like,
the
but
age
even
of
that
stuff.
I'd say could be a science. It's still social science because then you could like come up with evidence. Like, he wrote about this. He spoke to this person about that. He did this, and then someone could be like, but he did this. It's not as like concrete as like maybe other sciences, but it's still a science in the sense that you could come up with claims that are falsifiable. Which is why pseudoscience can then exist, because there's these claims that sound like they're falsifiable, but actually if you bring anything up, like, like a normal scientist, when they're doing like a claim, it's like, but, they would admit if this and this and this were true, then this theory doesn't stand. Or if this was true, then this theory doesn't make sense, and we'd have to change the model or whatever. Anyway, sorry, that was a very long rant about like the first
Very
claim.
interesting.
But I wanted to bring that up because especially if we're going to talk about more theories.
Oh, there's many more theories.
Exactly. I think it's a good I like that idea. Obviously, again, it's philosophy, so there's always, you could argue against it, but in my mind, that's like how I like to see things. They're things that sound falsifiable but aren't really. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know if you had anything else to mention about that
That's
theory.
pretty much all I got for the fandom time theory.
Also, I hit the mic by accident. I'm sorry about that.
Next up, I've kind of grouped these together because they're not as long, but they're all pre-Columbian contact theories. So
oh no,
the North and South Americans.
That's always a great way to start.
All the indigenous people here. There's a bunch of theories.
So all of America, not like Mesoamerica, South America, just
well,
all
it's
of America.
because there's a variety and like because I wrote down more than one.
Oh, they come in different flavors.
Oh yeah.
Do they?
Some of them I didn't write down in big detail that are quite popular. Is Zhenghe, like the treasure fleets of China. Allegedly went to California. I didn't do that.
I mean, that's a fun idea. I don't think it's real at all, but it's
There's-
a fun alternate history.
I didn't take it because there's zero evidence. Most of these have zero evidence, but there's not even really like real claims for that.
But they have like Buddhist missions in California.
But it is really cool. There's
They definitely don't come from later immigration.
the one I saw with the most credence is that the Polynesians might have had contact.
Yeah, I mean that was in one of my classes. My professor in Indian Ocean history talked about that, where he said like it's still in debate.
Yeah, it's not like considered like a conspiracy. Like there's an argument to be made for that
Yeah,
one.
there's an argument to be made for, and there's arguments to be made against.
Yeah,
it's not a settled fact. You can pick a side and be certain about it, and I think you can be reasonable about it.
But it's not one of these ones like you're gonna see what I'm about to tell you.
It's not like indigenous people existed. Like they did.
Yeah,
That's just the truth.
You're
Did
about to
Polynesians
see-
get there? Then oh no. Okay, sorry, I'm getting out of myself.
No, it's okay. I'm just gonna say like there's a reasonable debate to be made there, but these you'll see there's no like no sane person would.
You know
believe
what?
this.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Please
Sure,
give
we'll
them
do
to
that.
me.
But also,
I'll hear them first, and I'll tell you why all the evidence against it is not
wrong.
It is wrong and not reliable.
My little aside though that I found really interesting was that the people who lived in the Aleutianians, which is like a island chain underneath Alaska,
Underneath,
like in
the
Alaska,
Aleutians?
yeah, the Aleutians. They're like they're considered North American indigenous people. They did have contact with the old world because they would trade with the people in Siberia. So I thought that was a really interesting one that's verifiable.
That's really cool. I mean, there is like an interesting history in like especially the northern parts because they're like the closest. To
Yeah,
because
because it's like there's quite a bit of evidence that there was some trade there. So I thought that was interesting because that is pre-Columbian, and of course there's the Vikings in Canada.
I mean, I think it's good to establish that because if we get too carried away with like all these theories are fake and like argue too much against it, then it kind of makes us seem
there are
closed
some real
off to ideas. But again, with the Polynesians contact and the proof of like trade, and they're like, we're not saying it doesn't come from nowhere.
And there is also like importantly for Europe, there is Os Omedo, which is like the Viking settlement that was temporarily in
that
Newfoundland.
too.
So that's probably where a lot of these stories came from, was people coming back and kind of hearing about the land and the mystical land in the east.
Yeah, like Columbus didn't come from
Or the
Columbus
West.
didn't even know, but like people didn't have the idea that there's a land out there that we don't really know about from nowhere. Like people have been there and were there. Even if it was just off the coast or an island or something.
So to get to the ones that are verifiably untrue, we've got since we're recording this on St. Patrick's Day, I picked an Irish one to
St.
start.
Paddy's Day.
So we've got the legend of St. Brendan, right? So St. Brendan, who's an Irish monk.
I've never heard of St. Brendan, actually.
He's from the County Kerry. So allegedly he crosses the Atlantic Ocean in the 6th century in search of paradise.
In the 6th century. Isn't that before the Vikings?
Yes. This
Okay.
is like this.
Also from Ireland. Okay.
Yeah, from Ireland. And there's not a lot about this story, but one hilarious thing I found is the proof is that some dude actually did create a replica of this, like his boat, like an ancient Irish boat, and he did in fact cross the Atlantic Ocean. So it is theoretically possible, but there's zero evidence to suggest that there were Irish people in North America. There's no material evidence of old world.
I mean, that's one of those theories that I think. Again, that's one where it's like it's not really falsifiable in a sense because like if there's no
It's one guy.
evidence, it's like well one guy went and I'm assuming came back.
Oh,
or
no.
did he just go searching?
Oh, he went.
Okay, but yeah,
he doesn't come back.
It is still possible one guy went out there, saw some guy, got killed instantly, and like there's no evidence of it. Like that could realistically have happened, and there's no real way to falsify that idea. But it's also one of those things that I think
You can't prove
it's reasonably possible.
I mean, it's but
And
I wish I could
the
put
difference is that I don't think it matters.
Yeah, but I wish I
anymore.
could pull up a photo of the boat because like it looks like a canoe. Like it's not like a sailboat there, but some guy did it. So like
Yeah,
theoretically,
no, it's one of the it's like
in the
with-
70s.
It's like with the people escaping Alcatraz, right? Where like people kind of remade the conditions and made like the raincoat. Where it's like, did they actually survive? Whatever. It's like, at the end of the day, I mean, for them, I think it matters more because it's like very recent.
Yeah,
like-
but for this, it's like,
but from the 6th century, maybe one guy made it to America one time.
wouldn't that be wild?
I mean,
6th
that'd be-
century Irishman.
That would be very interesting. I mean, it goes to like it was
This is
the
the appeal of these things, though, is that like, wow, that would be really like it's
I mean, I like that idea because it's like, you know how like, oh, big Irish heritage in Canada and America.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it started in the 6th
but
century.
what's even funny is
actually.
it's one dude, so like,
It's one dude alone too. He said like in a canoe, just search for paradise, just like
yeah,
"All right,
he's a
bye,
monk.
guys.
You gotta, just yeah,
Yeah. And as we know, monks are historically very well known for being very fit and athletic and
in excellent shape.
very well. Well, I guess if he's a monk, he probably has a decent nutrition because access to that food. But
Who knows? Maybe he found Eden in North America because that's what he
maybe-
was looking
I mean,
for.
North America is Eden, and we just ruined it.
Yeah. So the second one,
That's frack.
this is a much more well-known story. Is Prince Madoc. So Prince Madoc was a
Madoc.
or Madoc. My Welsh is terrible, so I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. But anyways, he's a allegedly a Welsh prince.
A
Welsh prince.
A Welsh prince.
Yes, who was claimed to have explored the Americas as early as 1170.
Explored the Americas.
Yes, as early as 1170.
Okay.
So the legend goes that he travels east from Wales and he lands in Mobile Bay, Alabama, which
Mobile.
Mobile Bay, sorry, Alabama.
No, it's weird too.
I'm
I
just-
thought it was Mobile Bay too for a
I
while.
just love that it's he's in Alabama now and he travels
Yeah.
up the Coosa
Mississippi
River.
or the Cruza. Okay.
Yeah, into Tennessee and Georgia, right? Then he allegedly goes back to Wales, gathers up 10 ships worth of people to start an expedition to the New World, and this is when he's never seen again, right?
Okay.
If you believe the poem in the story, I'll get to that. But there's like he's never seen again after this.
After when?
After the second, he comes back and he gathers
Oh.
up an expedition of people, and he's like,
Okay.
it's the first time it's one ship.
In my head, you're like, he came back with the intention to do that, but he never actually came back. And so I'm just like, how do they know this? Like,
No, he came back to
Okay.
Wales, according
that
to the
makes
story.
a lot more sense. Yeah.
And he gathers up a much larger group of people, 10
Right.
ships to go out and explore
the
and whatever.
Santa Maria and all the others.
It is interesting that it was used by the British government and more, I guess, the monarchy more than to bolster their claim to the Americas. Like when they were competing with Spain, like when the Pope granted them, half the world or whatever, they're like, yeah, but our people were there first because there was a Welsh guy who explored America before anybody
Well,
else.
I think that that's extra reason to think that it's not true. If anything.
But get this, so there are claims that
Claims.
descendants of this expedition, the second one, had intermarried with indigenous groups
In
and
Mobile,
founded
Alabama.
and founded cities that created groups of quote Welsh Indians. The label was later attached because this was actually quite a popular legend.
Yeah, I
that
mean-
when the Europeans arrived, they went looking for the Welsh Indians. So they attached this like moniker to the
God, the British can't leave the Welsh people alone. Even when they go to the Americas, they need to fucking
they're
track
like-
them down.
Yeah, they're like, let's find these Welsh Indians. They attached to the Mandan tribe, I think that's how they're pronounced, which was a very small group of people.
Right.
Which unfortunately they all died due to smallpox. So we'll never know what they thought of this.
Well, thanks, British.
Um,
Really can't leave Welsh people alone.
And they believe that this particular tribe was the Welsh Indians due to their quote
I guess Welsh are British. English.
English.
Thanks, English.
Due to their supposedly European-looking towns, they were allegedly using ships in the style of like Welsh, like ancient Welsh.
Allegedly.
Well, the evidence is testimonies from like 3 guys.
No.
Um,
Oh, that's the same amount of guys who said
not
that.
even. No, it's not
The
even.
Air Force found
That's true.
aliens. So
The way it was it was one indigenous group heard about this from the Mandan, so like the original tribe, and they told the Europeans that. So the Europeans never saw this
okay.
until later.
Never saw
Like
the ships.
Yeah, they never saw the ships or the towns until much later, at which point I'm pretty sure they would have had a lot of contact with the Europeans, like in the 1800s.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
And they also claimed that there was a huge battle with like Europe where the Welsh Indians, I'll call them Welsh descent people, fought the Native Americans, and they apparently there was a huge grave with like I say apparently because again this is one guy's testimony.
yeah.
There was a huge grave with
Keep yourself from legal liability.
with with European armor and like dressed like you would imagine Welsh people in the Middle Ages.
Right.
But it was all destroyed in a landslide. So,
oh.
anyways, and apparently the language of that tribe I was telling you about resembles Welsh, and there's like
resembles Welsh.
there is like the most bare minimum evidence because they did go back in the 1800s. They have the same word for like bread and something else. It's like 2 words. They have a couple
They
similar
have the same
words.
word for bread. Okay.
They have a couple similar words, but like that's if you ignore like their entire rest of their language,
Yeah, or like the idea that maybe certain cultures evolve similar sounding things if they're
Yeah.
left alone for thousands of years, and also if there's an entire 2 continents to pick from words in a language.
And Thomas Jefferson even spoke of the Welsh Indians. He believed they were real. He said
I
after-
mean, he was a big like believer in like archaeology, right? He was.
but it was such a big phenomenon that people would actually go out, like explorers would go out looking for them. A bit like El Dorado.
Do
Like
people still do that?
well, no, now people claim all those advanced cities are, like the more quote unquote advanced cities that Native Americans built were actually from Welsh descendant people.
Oh. So if indigenous people built
it loops,
anything
it loops around. Yeah, it loops around to racism.
sophisticated,
It always loops around to racism.
well, they couldn't have done it. They must have been Welsh.
Yeah, it's always something like that. And yeah, I wrote pretty much no evidence aside from there's a poem in the it was written in 1799 that recounts the whole story of the event, which is where I got most of this
Right.
material. But he's purporting to be like reporting something that's well known, but the only written
I
source
didn't
we
know
have is the
about
poem. And there's not really any archaeological evidence to suggest that there were Europeans. But I thought that was interesting, the whole like Welsh Indian like.
I mean, I find that like
I just love the image of a Welsh
for a
prince.
while Welsh people weren't really respected by the English.
Mm.
I think they got their recognized a bit earlier than most other places, but just because they've been in the empire for so long. But like the idea that like, oh yeah, Welsh people, whatever. But if they went to Americas, then they're Welsh. They're so advanced and they're so I don't know. It's like they're European, so there's still like the difference between like there's the English and then the Welsh below that, and then way below is indigenous people is probably how they viewed it. It's like anything semi-sophisticated. Like
So,
obviously, if it was English over there, they would have built I don't know skyscrapers by now or something.
Yeah.
But it's just again like seems falsifiable, but in reality, like just being like, well, this the Puebla, they built a city, in the walls. The idea of a city could not have come naturally. Urban development is not a natural.
Well, don't get me
thing
started
that
because
occurs.
the quote European style cities is because they have like a grid planning and like roads and stuff and aren't like long houses.
Grid planning. I mean, I find that so funny. Grid planning can't be something that naturally comes out of what if we made a city, but made it as efficient as possible. Easy to know where things are.
Who could have come up with that?
Who other than a European could have come up
So
with
yeah,
that?
that's
Or who other than an Afro-Eurasian or whatever.
that's Madoc. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Prince Madoc.
Yeah. For all we know, there might have been a Welsh prince who like took off towards America, but the chances of him actually arriving there were pretty slim.
I mean, that's another one that like I can believe that happened. Like it's just again, it's not falsifiable.
Mhm.
And there's plenty of like cultures in the Americas, so if there was like one bit of Welsh that came in there, I don't think Welsh is so special that it would have proliferated
Yeah.
and influenced all like I don't know, maybe it did, but that's another one that's not falsifiable, and I don't think. Yeah, I mean the people who'd care most about this theory is the type of person I wouldn't want to hang out with.
Yeah, literally.
At least from what I'm hearing right now.
But the epic poem is pretty interesting if you treat it as a piece of fiction, though. It's actually quite.
Don't worry though.
quite
Listen, the cities of the indigenous people, they weren't taught how to do that by aliens.
By European.
It was Welsh people.
It was
the
Welsh,
whole
yeah.
time. It was the Welsh.
Because the Welsh.
It was-
They built the pyramids, guys. That's my conspiracy theory.
Your conspiracy theory is Prince Madoc actually went down to Egypt
Yeah.
and also back in time and built the
Back in
pyramids.
time, I guess. Yeah. Speaking of Egyptians, then my next pre-Columbian contact theory is the Egyptians. So
Oh.
this is an amazing story. I love this one. So basically, some Egyptian mummies, weirdly enough, had traces of cocaine and nicotine when they did analysis of their hair and stuff,
Is that strange?
which is a plant that only exists in the New World, as far as we know, more or less.
Right. I
Um,
mean, in my head, it's just that some English guy was puffing on a fucking cigar when they.
Well, I'll get to that.
Oh, okay. And also doing
So
lines on the body.
They take this and they're like, oh my god, the Egyptians must have sailed to or at least had contact with the North Americans.
Yeah. The Polynesians who went to the
Yeah, they
Americas
did-
then went to Egypt.
Well, they went to Madagascar, they went to and they up the Nile. But
It's all Africa, right? It's the same place.
so yeah, and
That was a joke, by the way. Please.
and more evidence to this came out when Ramses II, the mummy, in the 1970s, they found he had fragments of tobacco leaves in his abdomen.
Fragments of tobacco leaves in his abdomen.
Yeah.
Okay, that is interesting.
And then I wrote, this is the most likely nonsense because since 1886 they unwrapped his mummy
Right.
And he's got like an open like abdomen wound, basically.
Well,
Like,
someone took the tobacco. They were
No,
going
but
through
like-
withdrawals.
went from 1886 to 1970. There's a lot of time in there. He was moved around a lot for someone to drop tobacco leaves or I don't know do what to it. So
Yeah.
and for the cocaine and nicotine and the other Egyptian mummies, that's more than likely due to the fact that people did really sloppy autopsy work and were probably snorting coke in the 1800s or were smoking around the mummies.
No, I mean, I definitely believe the smoking around the mummies. Like, there's no way they didn't take a chance to hotbox an ancient Egyptian tomb.
Or I mean, like even the coke, like people did a lot more cocaine back then, so maybe just like they had it on them. And it was
I
in,
mean,
like,
it's like meth, right? Like meth, they did
Yeah.
the tablets or whatever. I'm sure there was like a cocaine equivalent.
it's
at
like a
some point.
super trace amount, you know. So basically, it's
Yeah.
just I said
Or someone had it on their clothes because it wasn't very well cleaned.
I basically in my refutation just says basically sloppy archaeological work probably led to them contaminating the bodies. But I'm just amused the idea that they were doing coke.
Well, it reminds me of like, I don't know if you've seen those stories. I don't remember from, like, there's a few stories where it's like, oh, in Newfoundland they found a Roman sword. Like they just found one, and people are thinking, oh, it must have been that Rome went. When it's like, well, it could be some archaeological enthusiast had a Roman sword and brought it to the Americas and lost it, or
I mean,
whatever.
yeah, or
like,
whatever.
like if you found one thing somewhere where it shouldn't be, there's a lot of history and a lot of movement of things that could explain that. Like,
I don't think it's
you know,
indicative of a pattern.
Oops,
yeah.
sorry. But like you know more about archaeology, but I think you can speak more to how archaeology is more to establish like trends. Like if there is a lot of Roman swords in Newfoundland,
Yeah, that's something to look into.
that's
There's-
something to look into. If there is one Roman sword that someone just found after like their dog digged it out
Yeah.
of like next to a tree, like
Well, there's also the
Would
element
that mean anything?
if it's like not deep, like if it's so shallow enough that like a dog can dig it up, it's also probably quite
right,
recent.
which I don't know if it was a dog that.
No, I'm just
dug
saying
it
like
up.
there's all kinds of ways you can date stuff like that, and
Right. And I mean, like, I'm sure people, like, came in with shovels to see if, like, there's other
Mm.
stuff there. And if there's literally nothing in the area except for that one sword, like,
maybe a Viking just like had one when he came in.
I mean, that's possible. Or, again, just some guy from the 1900s. Like,
yeah,
part of
like
his
some
family.
like Lord something.
Yeah,
of,
Seigneur
Yorkshire.
de something
Yeah.
something had, like, a sword in his, like, mighty collection. And
He lost it.
he lost it at sea or he lost it on land or in the million different ways you could lose it in the 18th, 19th century. I mean, I don't know. It's I don't know where that point was going, but
So the next ones I have are the nutty Nazi theories. So
oh,
all of these have to do with the
National
origin.
Socialists.
Yeah, the origin of the so-called Aryan race. So the Germanic, whatever superior race.
This
all that
sounds like
nonsense.
it's gonna be fun.
So- Originally, they thought that maybe Iceland was the birthplace of the Aryan race, and that's because
Reykjavik.
Thule, which is like the most northernmost continent in ancient Greek and Roman, like
Thule. I know that's also the name of like the pre-Inuit culture in
Yeah, this is
Northern
unrelated
America.
to that.
I mean, I'm so
well,
assuming, like,
unrelated.
I think it's where the name comes
yeah.
from, but
but
I get like that. The one you're referring to is the.
so they're like, oh, it
mythological
must be Iceland. So Himmler, who he's behind all of this, by the way, he has a huge interest in archaeology.
one.
Well,
Nut. He's
archaeology.
nutty.
He's nutty, and he really wants to prove this because he actually he really does care deeply as to whether or not this is true, and he gets quite upset when there's no evidence for it. But basically, he goes to the
The last thing
Icelandic.
he's gonna do is not stop believing in it, though. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
No, he doubles down. But the Icelandic government is unsurprisingly quite uncooperative. They're like, no, you can't come dig around in our country. You can have this one cave.
No, Himmler.
Yes.
You can't just come
And
here
then
and
they're like,
start
okay,
digging.
you can have one cave. And then they
Sorry.
claimed that in that cave, the Nazis claimed that in that cave, they found evidence of worship of, quote, ancient Germanic gods. It was later found, however, that cave was only inhabited from the 18th century onwards. I don't know what they were doing in that cave,
I mean, Germanic gods. It's
but it certainly wasn't ancient at any rate. There might have been
Right.
some guy who was still a pagan in the 1800s who was doing that.
I mean, in Iceland.
In Iceland, I
especially,
can believe
people
that.
still believe in. Was it like elves there or
Mm.
something? I forget. Some
Yeah, but like it's believable, right? And then he's a little discouraged,
Mm-hmm.
Himmler. So he's like, okay, it must be Atlantis then, where our race originates from. So he makes himself the leader of this expedition. He kicks another guy out of the. He boots another
It's like,
guy.
well, clearly you're not good enough at
Yeah,
this
literally.
thing.
This is in the 30. This is in 38. So it's like just before World War II. He's
Okay,
doing all this.
that's when they could still.
Run around the world without. So they believe that Atlantis was not in the Mediterranean, as Plato says, but
No.
rather in the North Atlantic, because Germanic people. Blah.
Right. Obviously, it's somewhere near Germany. It has to be.
So then the claim they made was that Atlantis reached its height 25,000 years ago, in their time about the same now, and was the birthplace of the supposedly superior race of the Aryans. And then they believe,
descendant of gods and all that.
Yeah, and like in the Plato story, they achieve like, high culture and high technology, and then the island
the
sinks.
very historical document from Plato.
And then the island
is very
sinks.
known for historical reliability.
The island sinks, and then they believed, using their, great rational logic, that the Atlanteans would logically flee to the highest place in the world to escape all this flooding, Tibet and the Himalayas. So Himmler then organizes an expedition to Tibet.
Wait, from the North Atlantic to Tibet.
Yes, because they want to be far away from water as possible, and the highest mountains in the world are in the Himalayas.
So they just
Nepal and Tibet.
Okay, I mean,
it was 25,000. They had a lot of time.
Right. I mean, Burkas are pretty badass. So if they were descended from Atlanteans, I could believe it.
And they go there and they go to expedition to.
Is it not Burkas? I mean Gurkhas. Gurkhas?
Yeah, I think it's Gurkhas.
No, yeah. Burkas is
It's
was something
article
Muslim women wear.
Yeah. So under my notes, I just have leads to an expedition to Tibet, and then in brackets skull measurements, etc. So they basically went around like
phrenology.
Yeah, they
and
went
all
around
that.
like they were like, "Hello, Tibetan people." Well, basically, he would like show up and be like, "Oh, I'm a physician or whatever. I'm a doctor." Not Himmler, the guy.
I'm a skull expert.
And he's like, he would treat their wounds and stuff in exchange for being allowed to measure their skulls. So he kind of like did that. And then he measured,
Gross.
and then he measured the skulls, whatever, and they took notes, and they, picked up the fauna and like bits of artifacts they could find to try and prove that these people were like Aryans, which I found hilarious, by the way. That like
you gotta love when your crackpot theory goes so far that like, oh, turns out the Aryans weren't Germans; they're actually
Tibetan.
They're Tibetans.
Anyways, they take all this back to Germany. It gets slowed down a
The
lot.
Dalai Lama is an Aryan.
It gets slowed down a lot because of the war. But anyways, Himmler does more excavations within Germany proper.
Turns out the Tibetans went back to Germany.
No, it actually turns out that there wasn't really, because he's trying to prove that before Christianity was big in Germany, that there was like this sort of, because he was a big believer in the occult, that there was like this big group of like people worshiping like the Germanic pagan gods and whatever.
I mean, that is what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand they probably had a messed up version of it.
But he's arguing this happened way, way later than it did in real, like,
It's like after Christianity?
Yeah.
Oh,
It continued, and then it was like...
Okay, that it continued. Okay, because I was like, before Christianity, like, yeah, they were...
But it turns out he couldn't prove it, so they just sealed off all the archaeological sites, which the public took to mean that it wasn't true. And then he got very upset and tried to publish a bunch of articles about this. But
I mean,
in brief, none of what he dug up...
It's like, what evidence have you found? Just like, I refuse to comment. Like, so none?
So none.
I refuse to comment. It's like, okay, so none. It's like, how dare you, sir? I simply said that I refuse to comment.
So that's the Nazis. I saved the best one for last here. This is my favorite one I found. This has got to be one of the craziest ones.
Please tell me.
Do you know where... Okay, well, here, what if I told you that... Tartary? Like, it's the old name for Central Asia and Siberia.
The steppe.
The Tatars. Yeah, like the steppe. What if I told you that was the center of a world-spanning empire which brought about world peace, but whose existence was covered up by the powers that be, I guess? They never specify who.
I mean, it depends who you ask, right? Sometimes
it's based in Russian nationalism. I didn't look too deep into why.
Oh, so it could be a many number of people.
Yeah.
It was by NATO.
Maybe. So basically, it claims that there's a lost civilization centered in Tartary, so Central Asia and Siberia, which had advanced technology and culture.
Mm-hmm.
Their evidence for this, if you can call it that. This is more of a claim than an evidence.
Their argument.
But they argue that this nation was so advanced that it in fact had built the White House and the Great Pyramids at Giza, and those things had been appropriated by other cultures with time. But those are originally from the Tartarian Empire.
Who are Russians, I'm assuming.
Well, the steppe, whatever.
Yeah, but they become Russians.
Well, yes, the whole thing is that the whole like nationalist part of this myth is that Russia is like the successor state to this imagined.
Yeah. So they're not just the third Rome. They're also the successors of this mighty, giant, world-spanning empire.
I also like to add that apparently the New York Penn Station and the 1915 World Fairgrounds were also buildings of the vast Tartary Empire.
The Penn Station?
The original one, before they demolished it. And they said that they demolished it to hide the fact that it was a Tartary monument.
What?
And they also quote, this is a kind of collection. A lot of people believe in different versions of this. But a common thread is that they also had unlimited wireless energy. And then I wrote, and achieved world peace, LMAO.
Unlimited wireless energy. Like the thing that like Tesla was
like
about?
that kind
Nikola
of stuff.
Tesla, to be clear.
Yeah, Nikola Tesla. And then in their conspiracy theory, oh, Jesus, I can't.
That's not the end.
No. So where'd this society go? You might
Right. Where'd it go?
They had the idea that a mud flood, that's what they say, I have this in quotations, wiped
Mud
out
flood. That sounds like a slur. Anyway, sorry, continue.
wiped out much of the world via depopulation, and thought, and that's why all their buildings remain, but there's none of them. Like the White House and the
I've heard about
pyramids.
the mud flood, I forget, like with the idea that like dirt like is hiding a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff, like that it keeps like this keeps on getting
Yeah.
more dirt. I guess it's a version of it.
Yeah, and that wiped out most of the population, and that's why their buildings were preserved. Whenever people appropriated, if you believe this, the White House and the Great Pyramids.
I find
But
it so funny, the idea that like the mud flood was so bad that it basically like created like a rapture. So it just like emptied all the buildings.
Yeah,
and there's nobody
basically.
there.
But I love the supporting evidence for the mud flood theory is that they're supported by the fact that many ancient buildings across the world have architectural elements like doors and windows and archways submerged many feet below ground level.
No,
It's almost like dirt accumulates with time.
I mean, from the Tartary Empire, clearly.
Oh, obviously, and it gets even better
I've never seen mud do that in,
Do you know-
in my very short life.
because there was a concentrated world effort to hide the existence of this empire. So during World War One and Two, when they bombed all those historic buildings, those were Tartary buildings. They were destroyed.
Oh my god, that's what World War One was about all the time. All that Franz
but-
Ferdinand bullshit was wrong. It was all just a collective effort to
I mean,
destroy the Tartary Empire.
You know how it's based in the
remnants.
fact that lots of cultural buildings were destroyed in World War One and Two. Well, they would say that all those buildings were destroyed in an effort to hide the existence of that empire.
Oh my god.
So yeah, that's probably the most batshit one I read out of all of them. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, where do you start with that one? where do you want to tackle first? You want to tackle World War One? You want to talk about?
I don't even know if there's
Tartary
Is there
Empire.
anything even to tap?
They built the White House.
That's one of them. Yeah,
What is there specific evidence for the fact that they built the White House, or is that just an example?
I don't have them written down. It was just on the list of Tartaran buildings when I googled it.
Which like I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like is it that if there's any building that's like slightly Greco-Roman inspired,
Well, it's
it
like,
was Tartar.
but the whole basis of
It was
the theory.
sorry, is it Tatar or Tartar?
Tatar. I don't know. I don't know
'Cause
if it's like even a thing
I
you're
don't know
really
if they're
supposed to
about
say
tartar
anymore.
sauce.
I think it's Tatar, but I don't.
Well, I know it's not like an accepted term now because it's
Yeah.
not specific enough. But I don't know. We still use more, and that's already. No. I guess more is still used in an academic sense, but not as like a general classification of people. But whatever. Anyway, this theory doesn't make any sense anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It could be the tartar sauce empire for all we care. It's a name for an ancient. I mean, this is just like a trope, right? Though it's the ancient civilization that was everywhere and was perfect and did everything,
it's
and
not
now
even-
they're trying to
In
hide it.
some versions of the theory, it only collapsed as recently as 100 years ago.
So that's how they built the White House.
But in other versions, it's much more ancient than that. It depends. And there's like the Great Reset.
It's
basically.
last Thursdayism at its finest. Everything in the world just started last Thursday. All your memories, they were created last Thursday. It's. I mean, again,
I
not
found the quote.
falsifiable.
I found the quote from the
please.
YouTuber. It says, "The same people that built the Capitol in Washington built the pyramids in Egypt," he said.
The same people.
Yeah.
The same people. God, I mean,
But it's based in like this really weird conservative ideology that like anything, the only modern buildings are like brutalist concrete boxes. Everything else has to have been built by like a better traditional empire.
I mean, that would be one way to
because the
explain
whole
why.
thing is based in architecture. Like the whole like basis of the conspiracy theory is about architecture and about buildings.
Well, it's a misunderstanding of architecture.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah,
and urban design. But it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, people don't realize that like people are doing interesting things with architecture. They just don't do Greco-Roman stuff as much as they used to. I mean, if you love marble, go to fucking Turkmenistan. They love marble
They do
over
love
there.
marble. Well, that is in the steps though.
Oh, that explains everything. No wonder they love marble. It's just, the successor state of the Tatar Empire isn't Russia. It's Turkmenistan.
Oh God, don't let their dictator get a hold of that
No.
theory.
Was it Gurbanguly? No, Gurbanguly is the first name of the first guy. Berdy Muhammadov? I don't remember. I don't know these things. I'm a history geography person. I didn't study political science.
No, that was my last one. I don't know if you have any. I was saving that one for last just because I was baffled the whole time I was reading this. I do love the idea that the White House has the same
It's
cultural.
built by the same people. Because it's like, it's one of those, again, the other ones it's interesting to think about. Like, let's say, for example, the ones where like people go to the Americas. Then there's
Yeah.
something to discuss. Then it's like, okay, well, what kind of evidence do we have? We have written evidence. How many people are talking about it? Can we find architectural evidence?
Is it like
in
feasible
Europe?
to do even with
Right.
the boats of the time?
Even like the Egypt one with the tobacco. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, there's a thing there that we talk about and deconstruct. But with that one, it's like everything you know is a lie, and this is the truth.
Yeah, it's like bordering on like you just have to believe it.
Like, that's
you got to be deep
it's a
in the rabbit
religion
hole
at that
Yeah,
point.
you
That's
got to be
like-
deep in the rabbit hole.
You have to
believe
have faith in it for it to be real, and at that point, it's a religion. Like, which isn't to say that like it's an ideology that is completely, it like shouldn't be believed in at all. If you believe in that, I mean, like, cool, good for you. But like, that's
it. Yes,
you believe in it.
We're gonna get one guy in the comments who's like, I can trace my descent back to the.
I'm a Tatarist. I mean,
yeah, it's quite the theory.
I mean, it's interesting because that is another one. I try to tie it back to like something that is possible, like in the grain of truth in the whole thing.
Most of
Because there's
these-
always like a grain of truth, but in that one, I think there is, which is like the idea that people from the steppe could conquer a lot of stuff and get control of a lot of land.
That's probably
'Cause
Mongol
that is-
Empire.
Right, that is true. Like, it's much easier to think that, the entire world was dominated by Tatars, let's say, or even like the modern Russian state, which is a large country in the world. It's huge. Again, internal politics aside, it's a lot more complicated than that, but that's how it goes. Then, like, let's say Egypt, which is like, when we think about it, it's like, it's the Nile. How could that take
Yeah.
over the world? That, like, even to, like, I'm sure someone believes it, but it's
Someone believes
difficult
everything.
to latch on. But, like, it's easy to latch on to that because the idea, like, Mongols conquered the world. I mean, it makes sense that a steppe people could do that. But
I guess.
even then, that's like a fundamental misunderstanding of how, let's say, like Turkic empires or how like the Mongol Empire even worked. Let's go to like the one founded by Chinggis Khan, like, or Genghis Khan, whatever, anglicizing it. He didn't grow it to like at its maximum size. It was already like very decentralized at that point. It wasn't like a massive empire, centralized state, people where they like controlled everything. Like, so some of them became Muslim. One of like the Yuan dynasty basically became a new version of China. Like, when you conquer the world, you don't just like now you are the world and no other cultures exist. Like, it takes like regional flavors. So in like every way you can think about it, like geographically, historically, archaeologically, sociologically, probably psychologically in some way, I don't know. Like,
All the disciplines.
it doesn't work, like, to me anyway.
No,
Because obviously I lack faith. I haven't talked to my Tatarist priest in a while. Like, I'm having a struggle of faith here. I don't know, but what are your thoughts on it?
But
you
I
probably
mean-
have many.
But I mean, at the same time, though, if they had wireless energy, imagine the Mongols with that. I mean, I don't know. I find there's zero like.
Imagine if Alexander the Great had tobacco. Sorry, it's
Give
just
this
reminded me
man
of
a
that. But I mean, don't even get me started on wireless energy. That's a whole other.
the Baghdad.
That's
battery.
one I've actually heard about. Is the wireless energy one?
Have you heard about any of these, by the way? Is this all new? Is this all new?
The Polynesians contacting Americas. That's not even a conspiracy
No,
theory.
that's
just
a debate.
a theory,
Yeah.
like a
Like
legitimate
an actual
theory.
legit debate that has
Yeah,
like, evidence. to
I've
back
heard
it.
about that one, and like, I don't really have a super strong opinion because I don't know about it, but I've heard about the Chinese expedition to the
Yeah.
Americas. I've heard about that one mostly because people were like, it's obviously not true, but like, what if? And then like people discuss that, and or like why it isn't true, and like just talks about like the Chinese voyages. I think
Yeah, like the treasure fleets and
the
like,
treasure fleets, yeah, which I think that in itself is an
They
interesting
are really
history.
interesting. Yeah.
Like, it's a good way to like kind of jump into real history that is real history again, assuming that it's untrue, which the evidence, the vast majority of academics, I think, believe that it's untrue. You could still talk about a lot of stuff that has more evidence that's more generally agreed upon that is interesting to talk about. So there's that one. I didn't hear about the Irish or the Welsh going.
No,
to
the Welsh one was
Americas.
my favorite because this was also new to me when I was researching for this.
I mean, I think that's very interesting as like a way to claim.
yeah, to claim legitimacy over the
In-
Spanish is pretty funny to be like,
Which-
a Welsh guy was here before you guys.
I mean, that it does make sense. Also, then for me, it even like disproves it further because, of course, it's a prince. Yeah, so it's like it's a prince, so it's
Yeah.
someone of authority,
Yeah,
as opposed to just like
a monk or some
someone
random
who
dude.
was chosen by God to lead this country, who then went to the Americas and I don't know, spread grid design,
design,
in the Americas.
urbanism and the
That's
Welsh
right.
language, if you believe the
Exactly. Pre-industrial urbanism started with the Welsh in the Americas.
Oh my god. Yeah, the Egyptian one just cracked me up just because it's such a simple explanation too.
I
They're
think
like,
the Egyptian one I've heard about too
Mm.
as a joke. I've never heard like an actual like serious version of it as opposed to the Chinese and Americas. And the Tatar one, that's another one I've heard about as like, oh, someone wrote a book about it apparently.
well, probably.
And I knew it was related to Russia in some way because a lot of Russian misinformation's going around these days. But I didn't hear it in that much detail. I didn't know it was connected to the mud flood, which is another one. That's another one I've heard about. Was the mud flood. Though that one I was unclear on. Is the exact details. I just heard like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of buildings buried and it must have been because of a mud flood, and that apparently leads to a global conspiracy somehow.
It always leads to a global conspiracy.
Yeah.
All of these somehow lead to global conspiracies. My favorite, I think, is the fact that Charlemagne isn't real.
That one is my favorite because I think that's one where you can like chew on a bit, where it's like when you can talk about like the events. That's one you can, again, that's one that is falsifiable. It's just about whether, people who believe in it are willing to believe the evidence. But that's one's like, that's a legitimate claim. That's like, I think this is what happened. These people did this and this amount of time, whatever. Then you can like talk about that claim as opposed to the Tatar Empire where like, everything's not real. There was this. It's like, okay.
I love the as recently as 100 years ago. Like, you're telling me all of history prior to like 1925.
I mean, like 100 years ago from when? Like, when was that written?
Because
like from today, that's like everything before 1925 didn't happen. So World War One.
Yeah, but this is a recent theory. Like, this was on a forum, like a QAnon kind of forum. That it was. There was an article they were interviewing a guy who's like big on that.
Okay.
So it's like pretty recent, like in the 2020s they did this.
Well, I'm gonna assume by 100 years ago they mean 1900s, not not 1920s.
You're claiming that everything before that we were living in a monolithic, world empire with global peace.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
And there's no evidence.
That's one that you can't chew on. Again, that's why I think it's like that one's like a religion, because that's a belief system,
I mean, I guess it is, yeah. I mean,
I'm kind of joking about it, but also kind of not, because like
you're going on faith.
It's like, oh yeah, well, also God created the universe, and like, was it like 1500 BC? I forget when like the creationist date is, the young Earth creationists. But it's basically like that, because then all you're saying is, okay, well, everything before that, there's this whole mythical idea, and none of it is real. It's like young Earth creationists saying like, well, everything before 1500 BC wasn't real. Dinosaurs lived among humans.
Dinosaurs are
actually
something.
I don't.
Evidence was planted by big science.
Big science.
Big paleontology.
But that's what it sounds like, though. I think that's just like young Earth creationism. It's old Tatar creationism. I'm trying to think of a word for the Tatar Empire theory, because that definitely does sound like a religion. Like, what's their holy book? I guess they probably.
Well, I don't know. There's probably someone who wrote a book about this. I'm sure.
Like they have some holy text.
Let's see.
But there's also like different derivations.
Oh yeah, because there is a bunch of disputes in this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Then you have like there's probably some Protestant Tatarists or something. Like, it really does sound like a religion. Which I know I'm repeating myself. I apologize, but I'm trying to think of a way.
I don't know if this is based on a book. I think this might be.
No, sorry, it's an organic idea. I mean, it's real, so obviously it's just something that's been floating around. Sorry, I keep questioning it, but
sorry. It's like kind of built on slowly. It says here with the
like all great things. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say, or well, it wasn't built at all. It was built by the Tatars. It was in a day.
Yeah, and it was popularized by the racial occult history of Nikolai Levashov in Russia.
The racial occult history. Now that sounds reliable.
It's a doctrine.
Oh, it is. Oh, sorry, a doctrine, not a religion. Sorry, I got too excited there.
This is. No, this is actually like a belief system. It's a cosmology.
Oh, it's a cosmology. No, it is.
It is based in.
I was right on the money. It's a religion.
They have two gods.
Yeah,
it's an occult. It's based in an occult faith.
Okay, so it is. No, I'm correct then in presuming this sounds like a religion. It is a religion.
Oh, and even even Levachauvinism, something like that, chauvinism, is a branch of another church.
It is. Woo.
Holy, this is like niche, man. I don't know who believes in. I've never heard of this before.
Well, there you go. Now you got a new topic to talk about. Talk about the development of Le Chauvinism or Le Chauvinism.
Like, do you want to know what?
Sorry,
I'm just
Le
Googling
Chauvinism.
There's not a lot of. I have the Wikipedia page open, okay? But
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Do you want to know what the purposes of their organization is?
According to a Wikipedia editor,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
Awakening the genetic memory of the Russian people and the other indigenous people living in the territory of modern Russia, restoring the truth of
sorry, continue. Sorry.
restoring the truth of the glorious past of these people and the role in the creation of a highly developed earthly civilization. So it is like part of a belief system that.
Yeah, I mean, genetic memory.
Mm.
Now we got to get a biologist on board. What's that all about?
His 2 books were banned because they were too extremist in Russia.
They were banned in Russia
As being too extremist.
like in Soviet Russia or in modern Russia?
Modern Russia, but in like certain cities, not like federally or anything.
Okay. Well, book banning, you can't do that.
Oh my god.
Well, yeah, no. So it is a religion.
It is actually
so
straight
there's
up.
no way to like say like, oh well, there's this claim, there's this idea.
Like there's actual texts. Like there's Levasheb
No,
texts.
okay, yeah. All right. So then, what do we now?
So is this really like a?
We're being bigots now.
Yeah, now we're bigoted, obviously.
Yeah.
My bad. I didn't realize this was the foundation.
You're
of someone's
making
occult.
fun of a religion,
I'm in a cult,
Max.
yeah, I'm
what are
in a
you
cult.
doing?
I mean, yeah.
You gotta get kicked off this platform.
I'm gonna get canceled by the 6 Levish. There's not even. I don't even know if there's anyone who.
The English speaking ones.
The English speaking ones who listen to this podcast.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it is a religion.
It is
a
actually
religion.
based on cosmology.
To all the chauvinists out there, I mean, I don't believe in it, but you do you. Like, good luck in life.
We're gonna get emails with like huge, like you gotta read this text. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we're getting cursed by the chauvinists.
It's just like a bunch of. It's all in Cyrillic.
I swear, if the comment section is full of like Cyrillic, I'm gonna be scared.
My God, I'm a little afraid now because I don't know, occult magic and stuff. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't want to get cursed anymore. Well, I'll consider cutting out this entire part of the podcast, just so we don't get on the bad side of certain people. But wow, I mean,
yeah, that is fascinating.
That is fascinating, and I think that's a great way to culminate everything.
Yeah,
you went from like slightly believable to
oh my God, this is the foundation of somebody's quote racial occult belief system. So
yeah, so and let's not continue making fun of belief systems. I mean,
I didn't realize. I really did think it was just like a piece of pseudo archaeology.
I mean, also I think belief systems should be discussed and should be questioned and should be argued over and talked about. But I'm just joking. But I do think, I was onto it that it is a religion.
No, you sniffed that out. I was like,
it comes with that language though, because like it's all like it's a mythology, right? It's not just a theory. Like the other ones, there's claims, right? It's like, oh, Prince Murdoch went to the Americas. It's again, even if you just said, okay, all of history was invented 100 years ago, that's still a claim that we can talk about. But like what you went through was like 30,000 different claims, and like there's no like conclusion. It's just, well, that's what happened.
That's just
and
the
then
way
you
it
have
is,
to like go through like each point. That's an entire mythology. That's an entire, like you said, there's 2 gods. There's a pantheon apparently.
There's quite a large pantheon from what I can see. It's like one of those like it's not quite neo-pagan, but it like adopts a bunch of the stuff from like.
I mean, neo-pagan's already fairly vague of a term.
Like it adopts a lot of Germanic gods, but it's also like I argue it's even more based in like Nazi racial science because like
I mean, again, racial occultism.
Yeah, it's very much.
It sounds like neo-Nazi stuff.
It basically is. It's like Russian neo-Nazi stuff.
Okay, well,
so
this isn't fun anymore.
Yeah, but it just goes to show the nutty Nazi stuff still has an influence on.
Yeah, well, you went from the nutty Nazi stuff to an evolved form of the nutty Nazi stuff.
People still believe this stuff. It's
some people. I mean, yeah, some people do. I mean, again, it seems like a very Russian-centric thing.
It is. Yeah.
I unfortunately can't speak nor understand Russian, but it would be very interesting to see the kind of people who believe in it.
Interview.
I mean, if we could get a Russian translator to do that,
or like a guy who speaks English who happens to be like a.
Yeah, I genuinely want to know at that point. Now that I know it's a religion, it's something I do actually.
Well, I don't know if they would consider it. We'd have to ask. I don't know. It has beliefs. I don't know if it's.
Well, it's one of those. I'm sure some people don't believe the whole cosmology of it, but even just the theory itself of the whole Tatar Empire, even if you don't believe in anything else, just that portion, I think that's enough to still believe in it as a religion. Because if you think that, then you don't believe in any other religion. You can't be a Muslim and also believe in the Tatar Empire.
I guess not. Yeah.
Like you can't. Like that's not. well, I mean, people's beliefs are inconsistent, but that's very inconsistent, like worldview. Same thing with like Christian, Hindu, Buddhist. I guess you can be an atheist or agnostic and still believe in that. But even then, that's like, okay, well, what did the 1700s happen? Like, the founding of the United States of America, French Revolution, British, the British occupation, as well as British and French colonialism in India. Like, there's a bunch of events in history that were just like, yep, none of it happened. So I would want to talk about it, to be like, why? Though again, I think I'm just assuming. I think both of us like love history and we love thinking about it and we love talking about it. But I also think it is probably important to say that some people probably don't care that much about history. Yeah. They just have a certain belief system and then they move on with their life. Yeah. Like, that's something I kind of have to accept, is that some people, like, I could probably ask them and it'd be like, well, it seems true. And, like, that's the end of the story. Sounds right to me, yeah. Like, they don't sit there reading books trying to, like, create an internally consistent worldview, because they have a fucking job at the factory, and who are they to care? Which, to be fair, true. Like, who would they be to care? But I still want to talk to someone like that just to see what kind of, like, did they go to school? I mean, maybe they went to what is this? Chauvinism school? Maybe there's, I don't know how popular this is. This might be like super fringe. I think this is like really. I mean, it's definitely super fringe. I mean, it's an offshoot, first of all, of like another. It's an offshoot of an offshoot of an offshoot. But this is probably like super. It's niche. One with first of all, some sort of holy texts. Again, I don't know if they call it holy, but texts and community, most likely. It's one that's still populated enough to have people in it. And so I'd still like it's again, it's more of a psychological thing at that point. I'd want to talk to someone and be like, how different are we to them? Like, is it like, how different is our thinking? I mean, of like, are our approaches to life and thought different? Is that this would be like a crazy group to do an ethnography of? I think if they're like, I don't know how concentrated this is. Like, is this just like an online thing, or do people really believe? I mean, at this point, everything. I mean, I don't know. No, do people practice this for real in their everyday life, or is it just? I'm sure there's some community out in rural Russia. Like, there has to be. Well, although I'm sure, like, again, it's one of those things where I'm sure like tenets of the belief are like spread everywhere. It's like all the people who like say like, oh yeah, I'm Muslim now because I hate women. It's which, yeah, some people do that now, apparently. And they're like, oh, yeah, I'll drink alcohol, eat pork, whatever, but I'm Muslim because I want to be able to disrespect women and be moral about it. I'm sure there's a similar thing with that, where it's like, oh, I want to believe in the Tatarism without having the chauvinist cosmology where I think, I don't know, the entire universe is in a snow globe or whatever they believe. Probably something like that. Sorry, not a snow globe. It's in a dome, like a giant mega dome. I don't know. I guess that, again, that'll be the subject for a different podcast, I think, is the development of that ideology. We're going to like do a whole thing on Russian occultism. Or like you said, Russian occultism. Because apparently this is quite a big movement. Because this is an offshoot of an offshoot, like you were saying. I mean, if you think about the entire history of Russia, I think, first of all, beliefs like that pop up everywhere in the world, I'm thinking of that, I forget that name, but we were in our class on American conservatism, there was that guy who had a dream that he was supposed to like lead a, like, I don't know, he was somehow connected to Jesus. Oh, he's supposed to lead like a fascist movement. Yeah, he marches across the United States. I can't remember his name either, but yeah, he does have like a revelation that he's supposed to. Yeah, I mean, people like that, if you have enough mix of like, I don't know, hallucination, like potentially a dash of mental illness with like mass suffering and discontent with your with the situation, with most likely a justifiable discontent with your present situation, then ideas like that are going to pop up. And I think if you look at the history of Russia, there's plenty of opportunities for that to happen. That is true, yeah. Speaking of 100 years ago, I wouldn't be surprised if someone believes like, oh yeah, the Soviet Union is so terrible that must be what destroyed the Tatar Empire. Yeah, the Tatar Empire. It was a peaceful thing where everything was great, and then Lenin showed up. That would kind of add up, though, in terms of the. I think because when you said as soon as 100 years ago, I'm trying to think that would be the event that seemed like it would. Communists destroyed the Tatar Empire. Yeah, which is why all communists. This should be destroyed. A crazy aside. I'm not gonna lie. This has been. Yeah, I didn't expect for us to stay on this one for so long, but wow. I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about. I think it's very it goes to show that, when it comes to a lot of these ideas, you can try to argue, evidence, all that stuff. But if it's a religion, then what's the point of arguing?
Yeah, like,
what do you think?
you can't reason someone out of faith. That's not how that works.
No. I mean, but you can. That's the thing.
Well, no,
but should you try?
Yeah,
the question.
Yeah, I guess.
It's like some people can be reasoned out of faith, right?
But then you would say that their faith isn't that strong if you can be reasoned.
Right. I guess that'd be the
if you really have faith in something, like,
right.
The whole point of faith is that you have no.
But I mean, at one point, but you can get someone to a point where their faith is tenuous, and then you reason them out of it, right? Which I'm not saying you should do. I'm not promoting that at all. But I mean, like, if someone has faith in let's say, again, what was it? At the racial occultism.
That's what it, yeah.
Which
racial.
I think I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that, like, I prefer that not be a globally accepted, like, thought, like, worldview.
Mm-hmm.
At least that form of it, unless some person's form of racial occultism is that all races are equal and there's no, you shouldn't treat people differently on that. But I don't think that's what a name like that infers. Is there value in arguing against that? Or maybe not value. Is there potential to do any good out of that? Or is it so fringe that it doesn't really matter?
I think this one in particular is so fringe that, like, who,
right?
We're gonna be like, if we were to actually find someone to debate this, he would probably be living in, like, Omsk in Russia or something, or, like, in some rural community where, like, at that point, like, why take the time to try and reason this guy out of his?
Right, but I mean, like, let's say on a mass media platform. Like, again, we're posting this to YouTube. I'm not saying, should we go to this guy's house and, like...
I mean, no, obviously, I think it's, like, it's okay for us to be like, okay, well, this is, like, pretty unverifiably, like, wrong, and it's based on a lot of problematic ideas of, racial superiority.
And that it completely, like, erases the study of, like, hundreds of thousands of millions of people throughout all of time.
And it also exists as a way to kind of push Slavic nationalism.
And I think that's the most important part, is that, like, it's not just an idea within itself. It's an idea that pushes an agenda, a modern political agenda specifically, and, which obviously people have a certain religion. They think in a certain way. They push for a certain agenda. But, Catholics don't exist to push a specific agenda. They might just have a specific agenda because they're Catholic, right? It seems to me like that idea doesn't just happen to exist and, they push for this idea. Then it exists to push that idea that Russians are the descendants of this great empire and they should rule. I guess today it'd be specifically Ukraine, but, like, the world at some point. Yeah.
And again, like, this is a very fringe idea. I think the vast majority of Russians probably don't even know this exists, let alone that they're, like... But it is kind of interesting that it's that developed as a concept.
Yeah, because if like, it is fringe, but if it's developed to a certain point, like, obviously it can be developed if one person came up with it and just kept developing.
Well, they do have a guy. That's why it's named
after.
They
have a guy, but they probably have more.
He wrote like 10 books that are like their.
Right, but they reached, like, he has a Wikipedia page.
It's a very long Wikipedia. People. Like, they have their practices and beliefs laid out on the page. So clearly this is, like, comprehensible to someone. Someone sat down and read through these,
Yeah, and I'm assuming they're not the only person.
No,
it's. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know where to go from there. I think this is an unanswered question. We're not gonna sit here and, like, answer.
This went into an interesting direction. I wasn't expecting that, because when I found this, I really thought it was just some whack conspiracy theory about how there was a globe-spanning empire. It's a pretty common kind of conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
but no, apparently it's the foundation of not one but 2 or 3, 4 religions. So
there you go. Well, that's why. First of all, I got to be careful with what you criticize. It might be connected to someone's belief system.
Worse yet, people who, like, take this kind of stuff very seriously.
But it also goes to show how, these ideas can quickly turn into a religion in itself, right? Again, non-falsifiable claims. That's what separates science from a religion. They might be different ways to view the world, but science, again, the philosophy says, is falsifiable claims. Religions are unfalsifiable claims. This is completely unfalsifiable, and it has become a religion, clearly. It only takes a few steps.
So next thing you know, Graham Hancock is going to be worshipped as a god. So
yeah, he's going to write a book.
He's going to write a book.
It's going to be called the Grahamism.
Grahamism or something, yeah.
Not the one behind the cracker. A different Grahamism.
No, a different Grahamism.
Because he was the what would you call it? A radical vegan.
Yes, yes.
Was he vegan or vegetarian? I forget.
I can't remember
I
either.
don't know. He was also like against joy,
Mm.
or not joy, against pleasure.
Anyways, I think we're going off on a.
We're going off on a tangent, but yeah, well, this was fun.
This was
this
was a great conversation.
This went in again, like you said, it was a
very
different
unexpected direction.
than I
Yeah.
expected. But it's good to think about these things. It's good to bring up ideas that you don't necessarily agree with, to like talk through them and see where those thoughts go, even though it's not necessarily like, yeah, it's true, or yeah, it's not true.
Mm.
Just where do they come from? How do they developed? What type of person believes in them? And is it a religion? So yeah, I guess we'll see you next week.
Yeah, next week.
Next week I'll have a topic prepared, like
I'm
Max
very excited.
did last time. Again, not antiquity, but I think it'll be interesting nonetheless. See ya.
Thank you.